a lot of experiences in the construction industry and a lot of homophobia and
Evan Thomas, co-host of HGTV's hit show Hometown Takeover, has finally broken his silence about rumors surrounding his fellow co-host Keith Bynum. Thomas's confirmation of these rumors has left viewers surprised and scrambling for answers. Could the bond everyone admired be hiding secrets? Join us as we uncover the truth behind this confession. The rumors begin. The whispers started softly like wind moving through quiet streets. Fans who had followed Keith Bynum and Evan Thomas from the very beginning of their journey on television started to notice little changes. Something felt different, but nobody could say exactly what it was. At first, the talk was about whether their show Bargain Block had become too expensive to keep running. Renovating entire homes on tight budgets looked fun on screen, but many wondered if the costs behind the cameras were beginning to weigh too heavily. Soon, other questions filled the air. Some believed the long hours and constant filming were taking a toll on the couple. They had been giving their energy to design, construction, filming, and promotion all at once. Could it be too much? Others asked if the network was stepping back, perhaps pulling support from the very project that had given Keith and Evan a national platform. Online discussions grew stronger with each passing week. Social media became a place of speculation. Posts appeared where fans dissected every update from their Instagram accounts. A picture of Keith standing in front of a half-finished house, a message with fewer words than usual, or a smile that did not quite reach the eyes. All of it was examined. People looked for hidden meanings, trying to read between the lines. The confusion deepened because the tone of their public updates shifted often. Some days there was optimism, full of bright images of painted walls and transformed rooms. On other days, the mood was harder to understand. A simple photo with little explanation left followers asking more questions than before. Evan's quiet nature added more fuel to the mystery. He rarely gave long explanations online. His silence was sometimes read as calm, sometimes as worry. Fans debated whether his reserved approach meant he was hiding stress or simply choosing privacy. Keith, on the other hand, was more open with emotions. His posts carried bursts of energy, but sometimes the emotion felt heavier. The contrast between the two men made speculation grow even faster. The more unclear their updates became, the louder the chatter online grew. Friends of the show tried to defend them, reminding others that not everything needed to be explained. But for many loyal viewers, uncertainty was hard to accept. A sense of worry spread through the fan base, mixing with hope that everything was still fine. It was in this cloud of uncertainty that the stage was set for what came next. The quiet tension of rumors would soon meet the solid weight of truth, and the truth would change everything. The questions had grown too loud, and the waiting could not last forever. When Evan Thomas finally stepped forward with the truth, it shocked even those who thought they were prepared. Evan Thomas confirms the truth. When the truth arrived, it came like a stone dropped in still water, sending waves through everyone who cared about Bargain Block. Evan Thomas spoke clearly and without hesitation. The show was over. After 5 full seasons, the journey that had filled television screens with color, creativity, and heart would not return. The timeline of this ending carried its quiet heartbreak. Back in February, Evan and Keith had been told behind closed doors that their show would not continue. For months, they had carried this knowledge in silence while filming wrapped up and projects continued in the public eye. Then, in June, they finally told the world what had already become their heavy reality. By the time September came, the last episode aired, closing the door on a chapter that had brought so much joy. Fans had always imagined that Bargain Block would continue to grow, but the truth was now in the open. Their business had been, in Evan's words, completely derailed. What had once been a steady rhythm of building, filming, and airing was suddenly broken. The financial structure that relied on the show's presence no longer had support. The cancellation did not just mean the end of a television series, it meant that their day-to-day work, their schedules, and even their business plans had to be rewritten overnight. At the moment they received the news, Keith and Evan were still in the middle of important projects. There were houses being remodeled that were meant to be shown on television. With the cancellation, some of these plans had to be paused. There were houses being remodeled that were meant to be shown on television. With the cancellation, some of these plans had to be paused. Without the income streams connected to filming, progress became harder. Choices had to be made quickly about which projects could continue and which ones needed to be set aside. For two men who had built so much on hope, creativity, and discipline, this was not just a professional disappointment. It was personal. The home they had built within the television world gave them not only a platform but also stability. With that suddenly gone, they faced both emotional strain and financial uncertainty. The honesty with which Evan shared this reality was striking. There was no attempt to hide the pain or make it look smaller than it was. The confirmation shocked fans, even those who had followed every rumor. Many had guessed at cancellation, but hearing the truth spoken so directly was different. It made the loss real. What once was just speculation became fact, and with that fact came grief for many who had found inspiration in the show. Still, there was something powerful about the way Evan presented the truth. He did not wrap it in excuses. He did not try to soften the blow with false promises. Instead, he chose openness. That openness brought fans closer, even in the sadness. While the end of Bargain Block closed a chapter, it also revealed the strength of Keith and Evan's bond. But how did the two build such a strong relationship? And could this challenge ever threaten to break their bond? Building more than homes. Keith Bynum and Evan Thomas are more than just business partners. They are life partners who took a chance on both love and dreams, and together they built something truly special. Their story is one filled with courage, creativity, and determination, and it is one that inspires people everywhere who believe in chasing dreams no matter how hard the path may seem. When Keith and Evan first came together, their connection was natural. They shared the same passions, values, and vision. Both of them wanted a life that was more than ordinary. They wanted to build something that could not only bring them joy, but also make a difference in the world. This desire became the foundation of their relationship and the spark that pushed them into building a business side by side. Their business was born from a simple idea, creating homes that were not only beautiful but also affordable. Instead of following the typical path of high-end design, they focused on people who needed a chance at better housing. That mission became their guide as they built their company, 9 Design Plus Homes. With Keith's creativity and design skills paired with Evan's steady mind and background in construction and management, the partnership was balanced in the best way. They complemented each other, proving that love and teamwork could bring incredible results. The boldest move of their journey came when they decided to leave behind their comfort zone and move to Detroit. At that time, Detroit was a city known for its struggles, but also for its strong spirit and potential. Many would have avoided it, but Keith and Evan saw opportunity. They believed they could be part of something bigger than themselves, helping rebuild neighborhoods one home at a time. For them, it was not about chasing wealth, but about creating impact, and that choice set them apart. Life in Detroit was not easy at first. They were outsiders trying to make a difference in a community that needed healing. The homes they worked on were often in terrible condition, and the process demanded long days of physical work, endless patience, and faith in their vision. But slowly, things started to change. The houses they touched turned from broken spaces into warm, welcoming homes. Neighbors began to notice. People saw not just the beauty of the homes, but also the heart behind the work. That underdog journey, 2 men with a dream working against the odds, was the perfect story for television. Soon, HGTV took notice. Executives saw their potential and gave them a chance to bring their story to the screen. That was the beginning of Bargain Block, the show that would turn Keith and Evan into household names. The premise of the show was simple yet powerful. Keith and Evan would buy rundown houses in Detroit and, with creativity and limited budgets, transform them into beautiful homes that people could afford. It was not about making luxury spaces. It was about proving that even with fewer resources, beauty and comfort were possible. Their quirky ideas, bold designs, and heartfelt approach quickly captured attention. Viewers fell in love not only with the homes but also with Keith and Evan themselves. Their chemistry was genuine, their humor was light, and their teamwork was inspiring. It was clear that this was not just a show, it was their real life, filled with passion and purpose. Fans could see the way they supported each other, whether through tough construction challenges or tight deadlines, and that honesty made them relatable. As the show grew in popularity, HGTV expanded their opportunities. They were invited to participate in Rock the Block, a competitive series that tested their skills against other designers. They also took their talents to new places in spin-offs like Bargain Block, New Orleans, proving that their vision could extend beyond Detroit. Each new project only deepened their bond with fans who admired their determination and kindness. The network's faith in them brought early success that many never expected for a small team like theirs. Promises of continued growth filled them with hope. They were no longer just underdogs working on forgotten streets. They had become leaders in design who inspired countless people to believe in second chances, not only for homes, but for life itself. However, their struggles were not limited to the screen. They also faced many challenges away from the spotlight. The behind-the-scenes battles. Life on television looked bright from the outside, but behind the cameras, Keith Bynum and Evan Thomas were facing storms that few could see. The challenges did not come from the homes they built or the long hours of painting, hammering, and designing. Instead, they came from a different place, the very world of television that had once lifted them up. When they joined Rock the Block, it seemed like a chance to share their creativity with an even wider audience. The stage was bigger, the competition stronger, and the spotlight brighter than ever. Yet for Keith, the experience carried a heavy emotional toll. He stepped into the challenge full of energy, but what unfolded behind closed doors left him shaken. Keith began to feel that not everything was fair. The pressure of competition was one thing, but the sense of being misled or manipulated by people running the show was something he could not ignore. To him, it felt like trust was slipping away. The excitement of creating turned into the stress of dealing with a system that did not always feel honest. The very passion that usually pushed him forward became clouded with frustration. The conflict with one producer made this even more difficult. What should have been a professional partnership turned into a source of anger and disappointment. The experience left Keith questioning not just the process of the show, but the people behind it. That doubt dug deep, shaking his faith in the industry he had worked so hard to enter. The public only saw smiles and finished rooms, but the weight he carried off-screen told another story. These struggles did not stay hidden forever. Keith's emotions spilled into the open, and his disappointment was plain to see. For someone who always worked with heart, feeling let down cut deeply. The anger that came from that conflict was not just about one project or one person. It was about trust, fairness, and the belief that hard work should be respected. Yet even in those dark moments, Keith was not alone. A support system quietly grew around him. Fellow HGTV stars like Egypt Sherrod, Ty Pennington, and Jonathan Knight offered kindness and understanding. They knew the pressures of the industry and stood by him when he needed it most. Their encouragement helped Keith steady himself and reminded him that he was not fighting these battles without allies. Through their support, Keith found strength to keep moving. What could have broken his spirit instead became a moment of reflection. He began to understand that the television world was full of both opportunity and challenge. For every bright success, there could be hidden difficulties. For every applause, there could be unseen tears. The broader culture of the network also became clear. The demand for fast results, the push for dramatic television, and the weight of contracts created a setting where pressure was constant. It was not only Keith and Evan who faced these struggles. Many others had walked the same path, balancing creativity with the reality of television production. These battles left scars, but they also shaped resilience. Keith and Evan learned that surviving in this world meant holding on to their values even when trust was tested. It meant leaning on each other and on the friends who offered support. And above all, it meant remembering why they began their journey. Not for fame, but for the love of creating homes filled with beauty and care. But while battles on set shook Keith's trust in television, the pain that shaped him most deeply came not from cameras or contracts, but from his family story. Personal tragedies and emotional struggles. Long before the lights of television found him, Keith Bynum carried wounds that were far more personal than anything seen on a renovation stage. His journey began with the difficult path of coming out, a choice that cost him the closeness of family. The rejection he faced in those early years left marks that did not fade easily. The warmth of home was replaced with distance, and the bond he once knew with loved ones was fractured. For Keith, being himself meant paying a price. Estrangement is a quiet pain, one that lingers through moments when family should be present. Holidays, milestones, and simple days of comfort were colored with absence. Even as he built a future with Evan, the shadow of those lost connections followed him. Time, however, has a way of changing hearts. After years apart, Keith found a way back to his mother. The reconciliation was fragile but meaningful. For a short while, the closeness returned, giving him back a piece of what had been lost. That renewed bond brought light into his life again. Yet, just as it was regained, it was also taken away. In the year 2022, Keith's mother passed from brain cancer. The illness was swift and merciless, leaving him to carry yet another wound. Losing a parent is always heavy, but losing one so soon after reconciliation brought a grief layered with bittersweet memories. There was comfort in knowing they had reconnected, but sorrow in realizing the time together had been far too short. This loss shaped Keith in ways that reached every part of his life. It pushed him to work harder, to honor the love he had regained, and to hold tighter to Evan. It gave him drive, but it also deepened his sense of vulnerability. Beneath the strong designs and the confident presence on screen was a man who had endured heartache that many never saw. Being public figures only added to the weight. Fans saw them smiling, laughing, and building homes. But behind the bright images was the effort to balance private grief with public expectations. Every post, every interview, every camera moment was filtered through the reality that they were still human, still struggling, and still healing. The balance of love, business, and fame became a daily challenge. Running a company, starring in a show, and protecting their relationship was more than most could imagine. For Keith and Evan, it meant constant effort. Evan's steady nature became a grounding force, while Keith's openness carried both strength and risk. Together, they faced the emotional toll of living so publicly while still carrying scars from their private lives. But the challenges went beyond these losses. They experienced health challenges. But how did this affect their progress? Keep on watching to find out more. Physical and mental health challenges. Health is a journey that never stops, and for Keith Bynum and Evan Thomas, it became a powerful part of their story. Over the years, both of them chose to make real changes in the way they cared for their bodies. They began a transformation that touched every part of their lives. From what they ate to how they stayed active, every choice was made with care. Step by step, they saw the difference, not only in how they looked but also in how they felt. Evan's weight loss was especially noticeable, a change that did not happen overnight but through steady commitment. He embraced a lifestyle that focused on balance, and in time, the results spoke for themselves. Keith also made healthier choices, showing that small efforts done with patience could lead to big results. Together, they supported each other in this journey, proving that love and partnership can be a strong source of motivation. But health was not only about the body. The mind carried just as much weight, especially under the pressure of being on television. The world of TV demanded that they look their best, sound their best, and keep their energy high. Every episode came with long days of filming, endless takes, and the constant presence of cameras. Behind the smiles and the cheerful reveals, the stress was heavy. The public often saw only joy, but behind that joy were moments of exhaustion. The need to project happiness even while facing grief or frustration took its toll. After the loss of Keith's mother, this became even harder. Grieving privately while performing publicly demanded a strength that few could imagine. Every scene required them to set aside pain and put forward the image the audience expected. These challenges left them balancing two worlds. In one world, they were hosts, designers, and builders, always ready to bring beauty into other people's homes. In the other world, they were two men dealing with the weight of personal struggles and the demands of fame. The gap between the two was wide, and crossing it day after day was not easy. Mental health became as important as physical health. Finding peace in small moments, leaning on each other for comfort, and remembering why they started kept them moving forward. Their journey showed that health is not about perfection. It is about resilience, patience, and the courage to keep going, even when the world expects more than you feel you can give. Their transformation, both inside and out, became a symbol of strength. It reminded fans that what they saw on screen was only part of the story. The real story was about two people learning to care for themselves while carrying the heavy weight of responsibility, fame, and personal loss. As they fought through their struggles, another wave was building outside of them, the voices of fans and media that could no longer stay silent. Fan reactions and media shock. The moment the truth about the cancellation of Bargain Block was confirmed, the reactions were instant. Fans who had followed every project, every paint color, and every home reveal could hardly believe what they were hearing. Social media filled quickly with words of shock and disappointment. For many, the show had been more than entertainment. It was comfort, inspiration, and a story of love and creativity. Losing it felt like losing a part of their weekly joy. Support poured in as well. Viewers wrote about how much Keith and Evan's work had meant to them, and how their passion had touched countless lives. It was not only about the homes they created, but about the kindness and dedication that shone through every episode. Fans wanted them to know they were not alone. The media, too, paid close attention. Headlines focused on the way the cancellation had left their business derailed, echoing the emotions Keith and Evan themselves had shared. Articles spoke of the sudden end to a show that had built such a loyal following, and the sadness that came with it. The story spread widely, turning what had once been a quiet television program into a symbol of both success and struggle. Fellow stars in the HGTV family also reacted. They knew the challenges of the industry and understood the disappointment of seeing a project end too soon. Their messages of care added another layer of support, showing that Keith and Evan were respected not only by viewers, but also by peers who shared their world. What made the reaction so powerful was the deep connection between the couple and their audience. People related not just to their designs, but to their human story. The themes of betrayal, grief, and resilience struck close to home for many who had faced similar challenges in their lives. In watching Keith and Evan overcome obstacles, fans felt hope for themselves. In hearing about their struggles, fans felt understood. The wave of reactions became proof that the show had left a lasting mark. Even though the cameras had stopped rolling, the bond between Keith, Evan, and their audience remained. Life after cancellation. When the cameras stopped rolling and the show was no longer part of their daily lives, Keith Bynum and Evan Thomas faced one of their biggest challenges yet. The sudden cancellation left a gap not only in their schedule but also in their hearts. For years, they had poured every bit of their energy into the show, and now they had to find a new path forward. The first big step was shifting their focus back to private clients. Their company, 9 Design Plus Homes, became the center of their lives again. While the television spotlight had given them attention and recognition, their true foundation was always rooted in design and building homes that mattered. Going back to this work reminded them of the reason they started in the first place: to help people, one project at a time. Of course, the loss of the show also meant a loss of revenue. The stability and opportunities that came from the network were suddenly gone, and that could have broken anyone's spirit. But Keith and Evan chose to face it with courage. There were tough days, moments of doubt, and times when the future felt uncertain, yet they refused to give up. They worked harder, took on more projects, and leaned on each other for strength. What made their journey through this storm even more powerful was the way their personalities balanced each other. Evan, with his calm and steady approach, helped ground their plans. He reminded them to think carefully, to rebuild with patience, and to see challenges as opportunities. Keith, on the other hand, carried raw emotion and unshakable passion. His fire kept them moving forward, pushing through fear with determination. Together, they created a portrait of true partnership, two different strengths working side by side toward the same dream. Their honesty during this time also shone through. They were not afraid to share their struggles openly, admitting that rebuilding trust, stability, and financial security was not easy. But by being real, they showed fans that setbacks are not the end. They can also be the start of something new. On social media, their posts reflected resilience. They shared moments of regrouping, little victories, and glimpses of hope. Fans could see that while the cancellation hurt, it did not define them. Instead, it became another chapter in their ongoing story of love, perseverance, and creativity. The world had seen them rise, stumble, and stand tall again. And as they found their rhythm once more, one thing became clear. Keith and Evan were not finished. They were simply beginning a new phase, ready to prove that no cancellation could erase their spirit. But with one chapter closed, the question remains, what lies ahead for Keith and Evan? And how will their story continue to unfold? What lies ahead for Keith and Evan? Even without the cameras following their every move, Keith Bynum and Evan Thomas continue to dream big. The end of the show did not mean the end of their journey. Instead, it opened the door to fresh opportunities that could take them in exciting new directions. Rumors have already started swirling about possible new projects. Some fans whisper about potential streaming deals, with the idea that their unique style and heartwarming story could easily find a new home online. The thought of Keith and Evan bringing their creativity to a wider audience has sparked excitement. And while nothing is confirmed, the possibilities keep hope alive. Through it all, one thing remains constant: their love for Detroit. The city that gave them their start is still at the center of everything they do. They continue to invest their time and energy into rebuilding communities, showing that their mission is much bigger than fame. For them, it has always been about making neighborhoods stronger, one house and one family at a time. Beyond construction and design, Keith and Evan's creative spirits could also lead them into new ventures. Fans imagine them writing books, sharing not only their story but also the lessons they have learned along the way. Others picture them growing their online presence, teaching design, and inspiring others through digital platforms. The world is wide, and for a duo as imaginative as they are, the opportunities are endless. What makes their future so bright is not just their talent, but also the unwavering support of their fans. Even after the cancellation, people continue to follow their journey, cheer them on, and believe in their vision. This loyal community keeps their legacy alive and reminds them that their story still matters. For Keith and Evan, the road ahead may be filled with unknowns, but it is also filled with hope. They have proven time and again that setbacks do not define them. What lies ahead is simply another chance to create, to love, and to inspire. And with their bond stronger than ever, there is no doubt that whatever path they choose, they will face it together, with open hearts and fearless determination. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.